Alright guys, Tomboy Official, thanks for tuning in. So I decided to watch season 7 of Queer Eye. It's set in New Orleans, definitely a place I want to visit, have not been to yet, but it just seems like such a rich spirited place. I've never been. I've been to Georgia. I've been to Georgia and Tennessee. I've never been anywhere else over that direction towards the east. But yeah, like, it just seems so different. Like, so this is gonna be complete spoilers. So if you want to watch the episodes first, you might want to do that, because I'm about to spoil it. So if I have opinions about them, I'll just post something on it. Yeah, the first episode, I mean, I don't know, I guess something that stands out to me being in Southern California, now I know it's not perfect in Southern California for LGBT people, but it is a whole lot more flexible, more just lifestyle wise. I feel like there's a lot that out here, you know, people don't really have to think about as much. Something that kind of crossed my mind is I'm a little bit curious to know how it's going to be for other states, having Californians moving to their states. California's a pretty pricey state, and it's known for, you know, free thinking, open-mindedness, just kind of this, I wouldn't completely say it's a counterculture, but, you know, even Northern California, you know, California has these reputations, like, the cannabis is good out here, like, you know, it's had the history of hippie culture, you know, a lot of diversity, entertainment industry, sports, like, it's an interesting state because it's so big too. It's like the majority of the coast, and it's so like there's so much variety to it. Like, Northern California isn't necessarily like Southern California. Like, Northern is more nature, the weather's colder, there's more like snow and storms, and, you know, like, it's basically a different area. It's like a whole coast. You know, you get the whole spectrum of the coast pretty much. Like, of course, when you go north, like Oregon and, you know, Washington, like, there's more like heavy weather and, you know, rain and all that. But, you know, Northern California is closer to that than it is to like Southern California. You know, we have drier weather. There's not a lot, I don't know, I wouldn't say drier than Northern, but we have drier as in, like, not really as in humidity, but drier as in, like, less storms. We get, I don't know how it is up there, but we get May gray and June gloom. I remember when I first went to San Francisco, I went to one of the piers where you could see Alcatraz. I was basically in a time in my life where I had, you know, pastors who were friends and people who were very churchy people. So me and some church buddies went with a pastor friend who was finishing college. I think I was in college and he was done and moving into his couple's apartment with his wife, and we helped him to move in all his stuff. So we drove from LA to San Francisco and loaded his stuff and unloaded his stuff at the university, or the college campus housing for couples or pastors or whatever it was. And then we went to visit Ellen G. White's house, Elms Haven, in Angwin, California. And then we went to do a little bit of touring in San Francisco. But of course, it's like a pastor, so he has rules, and we weren't doing any queer stuff. It was like just sightseeing. So we kind of just went and saw the pier. I think we had food, but I don't remember. And I remember way back, I was wearing this Incubus t-shirt that I had, and my, cargo shorts that I always wore. And it was summer. I remember it was summer. I don't remember which month, but I remember it was summer. And so I'm familiar with LA beaches. Like, as you guys know, I go to the beach almost every freaking day. And so, usually you don't really need a sweater. And it was summer, so I didn't think much of it. And I remember going to the pier, and I was like, I'm freezing. It's freezing. I was so cold. Like, I don't think I'd ever been that cold at the beach, like, that time of year. And it was the middle of the day, and I was, like, shocked. I was like, wow, this is very uncomfortably cold. I was not expecting that chilly of weather. And so things like that, it's like, even San Francisco, like, weather-wise, is different from, like, LA, San Diego. Coastally, it's, like, way colder. And I remember when I went to San Francisco Pride in, like, I don't know if it was 2018, 2019, around there. It was definitely cold. Like, they had, like, coat checks at night, and I was like, what? Like, like, I remember being in line, and some lady was kind of, like, playing around with my buttons on my shirt, and, like, started, like, unbuttoning them, and I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, I enjoyed the situation, but I was also like, damn, I'm cold. Like, I was wearing, like, a short sleeve button up and shorts, and, she's kind of, like, flirty, but I'm just like, I'm cold. Like, so I started, like, buttoning my shirt back. I had, like, a tank top under, but it's things like that where I'm like, yeah, if I was out here, like, take off my shirt, I don't really care, I got a tank top. But I was like, I am not just having a tank top. Like, I'm cold. I need all the layers I can get, because I had short sleeves anyways. So I was like, oh man, because we were standing outside Jolene's, and we were in line. And I think the go-go dancers were trans that night. It was really cool. Like, I had a good time. But anyways, I feel like out here, in a lot of places in California, like, California is so big, but Southern California specifically, it's busy, fast-paced, diverse, but I would call it pretty open-minded overall. Like, and that's kind of what stuck out to me with the first episode, was that it seemed like, her name's Stephanie, it seemed like her experiences were really, really, like, impacting. Like, she was saying things like, I can't walk like, she would have concerns when she would go walk the dog, or when she would, different stuff she would do. Like, even though, her family seemed pretty accepting, which was maybe surprising to me. Like, it's kind of interesting. So, me being from out this way, I heard the accents, and I was like, oh, like, the South kind of, I didn't really know where the episode was being filmed until the very end, actually. Even though, like, she had, like, a bunch of Saints stuff, but yeah, I saw the like, yeah, she had a bunch of stuff for the Saints, like memorabilia and stuff, because she's a really huge football fan. But I didn't really put two and two together. I was like, well, maybe she's just a really big fan. Like, I didn't know if they were in, like, South Carolina, or, like, what state they were in, like, Virginia or something. Like, I had no idea. And so I was like, wow, this is, I could just hear the accents, and I was like, first of all, I'm like, these houses are gigantic, so you're definitely not over here, like, usually when you see a house that's, like, humongous and, like, has a giant property, That's probably not a Southern California home. Like, they do have big houses out here sometimes, but you're paying like multiple millions of dollars for that kind of thing. Even like a 1-story with like a couple bathrooms and a couple bedrooms can be easily over $1 million out here. It's very hard to even find something that has property that's like $500,000. Like, usually it's gonna be $1 million. If you get like a front and backyard, you're usually paying a fortune, and especially if you're coastal. But yeah, that was probably the biggest thing I noticed, was that it just seemed like the environment was being described as more like a hostile community, because, Steph is like more mask presenting, as far as like clothing styles and, maybe a little bit of mannerisms and hairstyles and stuff, but very definitely a sensitivity, feminine, qualities as well. But a lot of times people see the outward stuff, so I think she was kind of seeming to say that, wearing Saints football, memorabilia, jerseys, basketball shorts, that kind of stuff, it's still kind of mask presenting, but more acceptable, because it's like, oh, you're just a sports fan, like, you can kind of wear whatever you want. And so I think that's kind of something that's different. Like, I know, like, I don't want to paint like Southern California to be like, oh, it's perfect, it's better than every place in the US, and that it's, like, everyone has their individual experiences. And so even though overall it's very open-minded out this way, there's still plenty of people that get harassed a lot. And so like, I think the rapper Saya Siya, she had an episode with Amber's Closet. I don't remember, this was like years ago, but she was talking about how she got, jumped or beat up by some men in Hollywood, and this is Hollywood, and I think I could be wrong, but I think it had something to do with, like, because she's like kind of masculine presenting, and some guys tried to beat her up, and I'm just like, this is like LA, like Hollywood, you don't expect that kind of thing to be happening. But even stuff like that, where you're like, okay, this is a rapper, LGBT person, out in public in the middle of Hollywood, and still getting jumped by people in the 2020ish is, or 2019, 2018, around there. So I don't even want to start to say like, okay, it's better out here, but overall I would say it is more forward moving than a lot of other places. So I do kind of wonder if things might change with, the great exodus out of California, how so many people are moving because of the cost of living just becoming so insane. And, people have a lot of businesses out here. Like, to run a business, even an LLC, it's super expensive out here. So there's really not a lot of incentive for businesses to open and stay in California, or for people to be like wanting to raise their families in California. Like, there is that kind of like, those of us who stay and want to pay to live here, we do it because our life is here. We're not trying to make a new life somewhere else, or whatever reasons it may be. It's like we put up with the cost of living. It's just something that we just have to deal with, like, we might have to live with roommates and have people drive us nuts, or we might have to live with family and not be able to have complete freedom, or we might, have to move more inland and move somewhere far away, just because it's a little bit cheaper, it's maybe like a couple $100 cheaper, and then commute to like meet your friends and stuff, like to the bigger parts of the city, and live in places like San Bernardino where the weather kind of sucks and you're not near the beach and stuff like that, but you're still paying a lot. It's not like that much cheaper. But yeah, I think about things like that, and I'm like, what my hope is that a lot of forward-thinking people are going to be moving out of Southern California and other areas of California, the Bay Area, and moving into other places that are cheaper. And yes, people complain like, oh, the rent's going up because of all these Californians, because we'll pay anything. Like, almost anything's cheaper than what we're paying anyway. So it's like, whatever. Like, make me pay $1,500 rent for a 1-bedroom apartment with a balcony, and like, that sounds good. That's a good rate. Like, you're lucky to find a studio out here for $1,500. And so, like, things like that, people out here are willing to kind of pay a little bit more. And so, when property owners see that, they're like, oh, we'll jack up the prices. So I know for a lot of people, it's not helpful for their communities in that aspect, but I'm hoping for the LGBT community specifically, I'm hoping to see some changes, when people start voting for these different freaking politicians and all these stupid laws that they're making and everything. And when people start voting, and it's going to be the Californians voting, they might sway the vote a little bit more. Maybe, I don't know, but, that's kind of what my hope is that we're going to start seeing more equality in different places where Californians are moving to, because they're going to bring their ideals with them. Of like, okay, like, we don't stand for this crap out, like, we're not used to this, like, we're not used to not being able to just like walk around with rainbows on. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Pride Month or not, like, I'm gonna dress how I'm gonna dress, like, and I find it pretty affirming, when people, not when they're confused about my gender, but when they kind of have to make like a decision. Like, I'm not saying like trying to like catch people in their, in like, oh, I want to complicate life for somebody, not like that, but like, I talked about it before, how like at Fatburger I had this experience where this the cashier didn't know my name. Like, they usually get your name for the order, and I was ordering, and I was next in line, and they're like, oh, hi, friend, what would you like, friend? And I noticed they were specifically avoiding pronouns, because I think they didn't know what the heck pronouns to use. And so, because they weren't too sure, they kind of just said friend. And I notice people usually say that they usually use love. Like, I get that a lot. Like, people say, what would you like, love? Like, they don't say lady or gent, or there's a lot of just like people choosing different wording when they just don't really know. And to me, that's nice, like, not it's hard to really explain, but it's like, it's nice to know that, like, somebody like me, where I identify as female. I think if you look at me, I'm pretty curvy. I think it's obvious that I'm born female, but also, I think it can throw people a little bit. And, yeah, when I went to pick up my food from the counter when it was done, and then they used my name, and, the person who was letting me come by, kind of referred to me as, like, a guy. I don't know if he said sir or what, but he had like a dog and was kind of like moving out of the way or something, and said something to refer to me as like almost like male, and then they call my name a second time, and they say my name, and it's a very woman name, and so they were like the guys that were like in line with the dog, the one with the dog and the other guy in line, they were just looking like, what? And then like, so it's like interactions with 3 people in one store where it's like, everyone has their own, like, they don't know what to say, but it's like, I wasn't uncomfortable, I'm like, that's about as comfortable as you can get, it's like nobody was like doing anything or saying anything, like they were respectful with whatever they thought was going on. I'm just there to order food, like that's all it really was, and I feel like there are a lot of places, and I don't even live in an area where it's like WeHo or like, some areas where it's like super open-minded. I live in a really conservative area. And so to see that there's even like a gay bar in this area, and like it's, you have people who are staff who kind of like understand something, it's like I can tell there's some kind of understanding of something. Like they're not like completely like ignorant or oblivious, and like even people in society, like you can kind of maybe not get something right or whatever, and it's like I'm not gonna fault somebody for thinking that somebody who's dressed like a guy is a guy. Like, how am I gonna be like, like they don't know me, they haven't heard me talk, you haven't heard my voice, you don't know my name, you kind of glance and see me from a distance. I know I look like a 15-year-old teenage guy. Like, that's how I look. But the only thing I think is just because I have a bit of a figure to me. If I didn't, then, I would definitely I'd have a way more masculine look to me. But it's very, in a way, it's kind of comforting to know that, like, there's places where even if it's conservative, it doesn't feel like super unsafe from my own opinion, my own experience. There's always the opportunity for it to be unsafe, but it's not like there aren't really specific areas that I can identify, like I don't go to this store because of that, or I don't go to that place because of that. Like, I feel like there's enough allyship and understanding around many places in LA that is kind of like, if something went down, I think most people would kind of stand up for you, like, or somebody would step in, at least like management or something like that. Like, I don't think people, I don't know, like I could be wrong in that, but that's just kind of the vibe I get, is that maybe it's not fully perfect. There is definitely discrimination. I've had all kinds of stuff happen, but none of it's been like to the point like they were talking about in this episode, where it's like, walking a dog or going to the store or just doing like your normal day-to-day, like going out to eat, going out to a bar, going out to party, even at a gay bar, and feeling like self-conscious about it. It's like, nah, I just do what I want out here. I feel self-conscious more at home with family, because it's like they're really religious and conservative and reserved around anything that has to do with sexuality or differences or anything like that. But I guess that's the one thing that stuck out to me in the show, in that episode, is like, okay, well, they had a family environment where they could maybe be a little more open and had like queer family members and stuff that they could get closer to, but outside the doors of their comfort of their home, like, I don't know what their work lives were like. Nobody seemed to be talking about work or education. I'm not saying that they don't work. I'm just saying, like, I mean, I think they really are wealthy, like, considering the stores they were shopping at and the furniture they were getting and stuff. Unless Queer Eye pays for all of that, because I don't know if Queer Eye pays for it. If they do, it's really pricey stuff. Like, I looked up the store that they went in, called Billy Reed. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how it looks. And the clothing store, Like, there was a jacket. I was just scrolling in the men's section, and there's a jacket, like a sport jacket, kind of dressed up sports jacket that's like $400-500, and most of the pants were like over $100. And so to me, that's expensive. I don't know. Maybe to some people that's not, but I'm like, damn. Like, for me, anything over like $30 for a t-shirt is a lot, anything over like 50-60 for some pants is kind of a lot. Maybe on occasion, if you want like a nice pair or something, I understand that, but I feel like it's a lot to pay more. So yeah, like, that's something I noticed. I was like, okay, like, these people are, not in an environment or a neighborhood where they can just comfortably be themselves. And that's surprising. It's not I don't know anything about New Orleans, so I don't know what I would expect. I always kind of expect that major cities kind of have it together more than other places. So it always scares me to hear, especially if it's like in the South or something, where there's like a major city that's not like a major city that's not open-minded. I'm like, how is it going to be in other areas of the state, and so yeah, with the Bible Belt and all that kind of stuff, I'm just like, I don't know. I fear for our people sometimes, but yeah, that's definitely something I noticed, kind of stood out as a difference to me. It's just, the environment, the neighborhood, the way they describe it, and the discomfort and the discrimination. That's just something that it's not that I've never had to deal with anything like that. It's just, it's not something that I would say is predictably gonna happen every day. Like, it's more of a rare thing. It's more of a rare occasion. Like, if it does happen, it's like, ooh, you gotta be a little surprised. Now, I'd say whenever I'm out with my trans friends, I definitely notice there's a lot more just ignorant people out there. Like, even if we're at like a music festival, there have been people who are kind of like, I'm kind of like, oh, this is like some weird like cis guy who's just trying to make a hassle for my friend, I mean, nobody should be touching other people, and there was some guy that was like touching my friend's hair and shoulders, and like to the point where we had to like stand up, and somebody else in the group started yelling at the guy for more than like a few seconds, until he finally left. And this is in a crowd full of people. And so, it took a while to get this dude to like back off. And I'm just like, what the fuck, but then also it's like there were a couple other people who later on, like, it was a full weekend thing, so there were a couple other people who later on, this is in San Diego, who later on were kind of like complimenting my friend's hair and like, ooh, your hair, and like, and like, girls making a fuss, and like girls talking about my friend's girlfriend, and some other ladies talking to the three of us, and just kind of making chit chat and stuff like that. And it's like, or when I was in the line at like one of the porta potties or whatever, and there were some ladies in front of me who I think they kind of assumed I was like a black guy. And then I kind of realized afterwards that, once I started talking, they kind of realized I was female, and they kind of eased up more, and we were in line, like, joking around and stuff. And I'm just like, like, it's stuff like that where it's like, you can be trans, non-binary, female with a little mask energy. I feel like in Southern California, there's a lot of people who gravitate towards those types of people. Like, they try to be friendly, especially if you're friendly. But also, it's like, there's definitely, like, the people who stare, or the people who don't know what the heck, or the people who, like, treat you different or treat you weird or whatever. But I don't know, like, I think, we're more visible out here, and people kind of just, they kind of leave you be for the most part. I don't think it socially limits me. Like, I think I socially limit myself. Like, I've been noticing that. And so, like, I found a bunch of free Pride events. Like, last night, I was like, I gotta get on this. And so that's why I was like, yeah, I got this Pride itinerary. Because, I want to do stuff, but I don't want to spend a fortune. And I don't want to do stuff that I'm, not really interested in. Like, usually, it's not that I'm not interested in bars and clubs, but it's like, I go so much, guys. It's not like I never go to gay bars or gay clubs. Like, that is like the default most of the time for my life. And so, because it's usually the default, because it's usually a default, I kind of like don't, I don't know, I don't make things like too complex, really. So, yeah. So I was kind of, getting a little bit of curiosity about, like, how it is, like, like, I don't think I want that. Like, I don't think I want a life where I have to, be too stressed about what's going to happen every time I leave the house. Like, it's already stressful as it is. I already find myself thinking about it. I already find myself thinking about, I got to go to this wedding in South Africa, and, like, what am I going to wear? It's like, this wedding isn't until August, and it's June, and I'm already worrying. Like, it's not like this country where I can just get away with doing whatever I want to do, I can't just, like, show up, get off a flight, and be the way I want to be just because that's how I am. I'm not trying to bring harm or danger to myself or my family. But, I might have to make some interesting clothing decisions, just because of where I'm going to be at. And it's kind of interesting, though, because I don't really think I dress, like, too masculine. Like, I have my own strange style. Like, I'd say it's more masculine as far as, like, the cut of the clothing, but I don't see a lot of guys that dress like me. Like, I think I still have, like, a feminine way of dressing in kind of like a masculine type of feminine way. Like, most guys aren't gonna wear that much color, bright pinks and, bright neon colors and stuff. Like, most men aren't wearing clothes that look like that. They're not wearing like fun shapes on their shirts, and like fun colored hats, and like fun socks and stuff. Like most guys aren't very, not that they're not expressive, like they can be stylish, but I think I have my own style. And yeah, I think it suits me. I like it. I'm comfortable in it. I think about the type of stuff I'd like to wear, like formally, like even when I watch like Stud Model Project, they have a lot of fashion types of stuff that I'm like, oh, I'm really into that. But yeah, it's just stuff like that where I'm just like, that episode kind of made me think along those lines of like, what is, like what is, what is it like to live in another place? What is it like for queer people in New Orleans? Like, I'm getting a glimpse into that. And I'm probably gonna watch the whole season. I really like that, I'm only on like the second episode, but I like that Queer Eye isn't only focused on the straight culture, because I feel like Queer Eye's had a history in what they do. Like, I think initially it was through Bravo, right? When it was like Jay and Carson and those guys. And yeah, I think it was Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. That was the one that was like the popular one. I think there was another one that was like a lesbian one or something. I don't remember what the show exactly was, but I think they had lesbians going into women's houses or something. Like, I don't know. I might check that out because I never really saw too much of it. I remember that it existed, but I might check that out too. But yeah, that's the biggest thing I'd say that stuck out to me was just the environmental differences that it seems that seem to be apparent in different cities. It's like something that I don't really think about too much here. Like, I think about it a little bit because when you're in Southern California with the cost of living, there is, for a lot of us, in the back of our minds, this whole like, I might have to consider moving one of these days, but nowhere seems appealing to me. I'm like, where else would I move? Like, I might want to move to the East Coast, like New York or something, but it's even more expensive than out here, and the weather sucks. And so, like, when my friends told me, when you're in New York and you can't go to the beach, like, people don't go to the beach, like, in the winter, and, like, my head was, like, blown. I was like, what do you mean you don't go to the beach in the winter? Like, and they're like, well, people just don't go because it's, like, cold, and, like, it's, like, freezing. And in my head, I'm just like, but what do you do then? How do you get outside? Like, what do you do? Like in my head, I'm like, I don't remember if it was New York or North Carolina where one of my friends was like, oh yeah, it's closed. Like, the beach is closed. And I'm like, they closed the beach? Like, like, to me, I'm like, out here, they'll close, like, you can't park, like, on beach property past, like, 10 p.m. or something. But you can park street parking and just walk to the beach. Like, they don't close it. The only time I've ever seen them close it was during the Rona. Otherwise, it's always open. So even stuff like that where I'm like, dude, I go to the beach almost every day. Like, how am I going to not go to the beach for, like, half the year? Or, like, be stuck in, like, snow. Like, I complain when we have May gray and June gloom and, like, we just don't have sun too much and the marine layer's thick and we just have clouds all the time. I complain about that, and it's like, and I complained that this winter was a little more intense than usual, but yeah, I'm just like, what the heck, you know? But yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Like, I'm glad that, you know, the couple got engaged. That was a nice surprise, I think, for everybody, because nobody was really even bringing that up. And I'm also pretty surprised that, you know, the family seemed really sweet. Like, they didn't get too into the family, but you could tell, like, they were happy and hugging and happy for them as a couple, as a newly engaged couple, happy for the transformation that they were experiencing, and happy to see them happy and happy to see them succeed on different levels. And, you know, that's nice to see. Like, there didn't appear to be like jealousy or anger or people like pointing fingers or judging them or anything like that. Every comment that I heard anybody from the family say was positive, and so that's something that I'm liking seeing, is that, you know, I guess Netflix took over the show, but it's like, you know, seeing queer people with their families, where it's a narrative written by queer people, you know, versus, you know, some random producer making some movie or series where it's like the whole series is about the difficulties of coming out or being outed. And like, yes, those are real concerns and real themes, but that's not the only theme, you know what I mean? It's like, and I like that this episode went into like deeper issues of like internalized homophobia and just kind of self-care and things that a lot of us need to see and hear, you know? It's like, oh, you have a room over here that's like really messy, and it's like, when did that start happening? And why don't you eat vegetables? And, you know, why don't you cook better food, healthier stuff for yourself instead of only eating mac and cheese? And like I'm not saying that out of judgment. I'm just saying, like, I mean, I had instant ramen for lunch. I'm no one to talk, you know, like, but yeah, like, just seeing people, you know, doing stuff or seeing people respond, you know, about what they see, kind of going on, like seeing people respond, like having somebody, you know, inviting someone into your home to see kind of like, okay, this is some stuff that you can maybe spruce up a bit, and like somebody kind of holding their hand through the process in a good way, being supportive and helping them get a leg up and changing their mindset, changing their motivation, changing their, you know, the way they look at themselves, their body, their image, their clothing style, like confidence and hairstyles and confidence, and just like people wanting to like stay home and, you know, not even getting like, you know, properly dressed, you know, and just kind of having like basketball shorts. And like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I walk around in basketball shorts all the time, but it's like, you know, I know for myself it took a while to be like, you know, I want to put in some effort when I leave the house, you know. Like, I had a friend once ask me, you know, when we went out to a bar and I was wearing like a gym shirt, and it was just like a karaoke bar, I think it's called Red Wings, and it's in San Diego, and it was a karaoke night, and I went, and, some of my friends were just like, well, one of my friends was just like, why are you wearing, why are you wearing that? Why are you wearing a gym shirt? Like, were you going to the gym? And I was like, no. It's like, well, why are you wearing a gym shirt at a bar? And I was just kind of like, I didn't know that was like something that people don't do. Like, I wasn't raised going to bars and clubs and stuff. And so, it was just little stuff like that where I'm like, okay. And then it took me a while to kind of come into my own style of things that I enjoyed wearing. I kind of kept it pretty neutral with just wearing like t-shirts that were just logoless t-shirts, and they were just plain t-shirts and a pair of shorts, and like no little cute accessories, nothing like that, nothing that I was really like into. I was just wearing it because I had to wear clothes, and so yeah, it did take a while for me to kind of come into what I wanted to wear. And I honestly didn't start getting any compliments on my clothing styles until I was in San Diego, honestly. Like, that's the first time I ever remember like staff members or friends or anybody being like, oh, I like that shirt, or like, oh, I like those socks, or like, I like that, I like that, like what you're wearing or whatever. Like, nobody had ever, like, my whole life, nobody had ever really said anything. And it's not like I'm dressing like any other person. Like, I just found stuff that I like. When I was shopping, I was like, oh, I like this color, I really like this, I like the way this fits, I like the colors on this, I like the print on this, I like, I would just get stuff that I liked. I wasn't concerned about anybody else. I was like, do I feel comfortable wearing this? Do I like the way it looks, even if it's weird? And strangely enough, other people liked it too. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, that was like weird to me. Like, I didn't expect that experience. Because I'm not dressing in any kind of like, feminine way that like at all, and still for people to kind of compliment it when I'm not even wearing stuff that they might want me to wear. Like, I even have these like tactical pants that I have family that prefers me to dress feminine, and I was wearing those tactical pants and they're like, those are really nice pants, I'm just like, like, this isn't the kind of style they even wanted me to wear, when I was growing up. And so it's kind of like, I'm not doing anything that I am not wanting to do, but it definitely took me a little bit to kind of step into thinking about the clothes that I buy and thinking about the clothes that I wear when I go to certain places, and being like, oh, I want to wear this with this. And like, I'm not like spending an extravagant amount of money. I just have stuff that I like to wear because I like the way it looks and I like the way it feels. And I'm not doing it to get compliments, but I'm always surprised when somebody's like, oh, I really like that t-shirt, it's really cool, or like, you look really nice, or like, and I'm just like, I don't think, like, I kind of think maybe I look nice, but I never really know. I'm just like, I just walk out of the house like wearing whatever the hell feels comfortable for me. But I'm like, maybe I feel more confident when I wear it, I don't really know. But I've been doing that for quite a few years now, since about maybe my third or so year working at that job. So probably since about like my fifth or fourth year, probably like around my 5th year living in San Diego, I started actually dressing the way I wanted to. So that's only been like five years or so that I've been doing that. And so things like that. And now I guess the motivation to kind of be practicing more fitness is, it's easy to gain weight because I don't always eat what I need to eat. And I don't always exercise what I need to exercise. And so I do kind of cut corners with that a little bit. But, it's nice to have my clothes fit the way I want them to fit. And it's nice that when I was working out a lot, you know, I saw the results. Like one day I looked in the mirror after like a couple weeks of, you know, getting in some pretty good workouts, and I was like, wow, I look different. I noticed I look different. But, you know, I did hit a bit of a rough patch, you know, when my dad came to town, and it was kind of like a little rocky, you know. I was just like, it's a little bit of a setback, but, you know, I'm kind of on the other side of that now. Like, that was like April, like most of April, a little bit of May. But yeah, it's not something that's going to change overnight. It's like if you've had a pretty rocky relationship with somebody for like your whole life and you're almost 40, you know, you're not going to suddenly just be like, oh, like things are going to work fine now. It's like, nah, there's a lot of baggage. And so, yeah, there's definitely some discomfort, but at the same time, it's like, you know, the family's all kind of making strides. I'd say overall now, everyone's kind of more or less kind of doing what they need to do to keep relationships stronger. Like they're not making it worse on a regular basis, if that makes sense. Like people have kind of calmed their shit down. So it is a little bit easier for us millennial generation to kind of connect with the older generation, because they're kind of reaching out more. Like I have some family that like texts me more and like, you know, tries to get in touch or like sends me like pictures here and there and stuff. And like it wasn't like that before. Like but yeah, like in recent years, I wouldn't say things are perfect, but things have definitely improved. And I know I complain a lot, you know, I'm always on these daily episodes just like bitching and moaning, but I mean, you know, I'm mostly talking in those about the stuff that I'm trying to change. And I'm definitely seeing changes, but yeah, when I watch an episode like this, I kind of think about, you know, the importance of queer people seeing other queer people helping each other or improving themselves, and how it doesn't always take like years and years and years. Like sometimes it seems like, oh, it's gonna take years for me to like get confident with wearing something, or like whatever. Like for me, it took one birthday where I took some PTO. I went to Huntington Beach as part of my birthday, and I bought a couple things. I went to Jack's Surf Shop and bought a discounted floral short sleeve button up for guys. It was like surfer style shirt that fit really nicely. And I bought a bracelet that I really liked. And that was all I did for that birthday. That was the beginning. And I wore that to work. And people really liked it. And I was like, okay, well, I really like this too. So I'm going to buy more of these shirts. So I bought, like, over time, I went to Ross and probably got like 3-4 shirts from like the young guys dress shirt section. Just some fun looking colors for some short sleeve button ups. And I kind of stuck with that style of like the short sleeve button ups because I hardly wear jackets. And so, you know, I usually just wear shorts and a t-shirt. And so I started wearing shorts and a button up when I'd go out. So much so that, you know, I'd have to start checking dress codes if I went somewhere that I wasn't used to, because I'd be like, well, can I wear shorts here? Because a lot of places you have to wear long pants. And so, you know, it was just stuff like that, like simple stuff like that. It was just the start of it. And then, you know, there's other stuff that I would say I'm not like fully confident on. Like I'm not like that confident on my clothing. I'm just saying, like, I have stuff that I like to wear, but a lot of it I've kind of outgrown it. Like it's either tattered or I've outgrown it. Like it doesn't physically fit me anymore. And so that's not good. But I mean, it's okay. Like, I can still kind of fit it if I need to. But yeah, like, and like I have some shirts. I have like maybe 3 shirts that are kind of newer that I haven't worn too much. And they're kind of too big for me, so I don't like that too much. And then so yeah, like I've got some stuff that I still like and enjoy. I've got some stuff that I want to try out. Like, I've got a couple button-ups that I haven't really worn because they never fit. I kind of tend to do that, though. I buy shirts sometimes thinking, like, okay, I really like these, so that'll be a little bit of motivation to lose a couple pounds so these will fit better. So it's like sometimes I can wear them and sometimes I can't, if that makes sense. But lately I definitely can't, unless I just, like, wear them open. And so I'm kind of considering that. I'm going out this weekend for once. It's Pride, guys. I gotta get out, so I'm gonna be at Long Beach Hamburger Mary's. I'll see what I wear, but I'm kind of considering what I'm gonna wear, and I'm kind of excited about it. And yeah, excited to choose kind of what I want to wear. And I've got some hats that are getting a little bit old, so I might want to consider buying some new ones, but that's kind of what I'm looking into. But I don't need to spend that much money on hats and stuff. Like, they cost me sometimes between $40 and $60, and that's a lot. I don't need to spend that much money. But I only like the fitted ones, but I like them like size like 3 and 4 like 8 3/4. So I like them pretty big for my poofy hair. And I don't like to, I like to keep like flat brim. For the visor, I don't really like to curve the visor. For me, I like it more to have a flat visor. I like the look of it more. I'll talk about it more maybe in a different episode, kind of like my own clothing preferences. But yeah, just because I wear glasses, it's a little more limiting to have the visor curved. Just a little limiting, not really, but a little bit. And then yeah, I try to watch a lot of queer content. It always kind of gives me a nice perspective, like positive queer content though, not necessarily like stuff that makes me feel weird. Like, I like to watch like Jade Fox and Ashley Gavin and all the people I talk about all the time, like Mac and Jimmy and Amber's Closet and Jess J Killam. Just a lot of the content is kind of fun. I've come more into some younger, like Lexi Peters and Alexa Legend and some of the people who were originally on the Stud Model Project, when they had their podcast, Face to Facts, and there's all these other things that I'm kind of like really into. So yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna keep watching these episodes and see kind of like what kind of comes to mind. That's kind of what comes to mind. Is kind of these topics, like the queer spaces, queer confidence, just people knowing what they like and being able to kind of overcome the adversity. There's going to be people who are always going to be trying to pull us down, but we are smart, we are creative, we see the world from a different view, a lot of us do, and it's almost like a superpower. It's like you can see different perspectives that other people can't. Like, I'm not a guy, but I can experience how guys sometimes get treated. I'm not you know, in like a super fashionable person, but I understand that guys' fashion, you know, has some things to it that, you know, when I hear guys complain about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know. Like, yeah. Or women complaining, like, oh, my pants don't usually have like a full normal pocket. It's like, yeah, I get that. We see the world from different perspectives because of how we live, and I think that's powerful. But with that, thanks for listening.